Lesson 19. The new work on Lesson 19 is to add zero pairs when we have subtraction problems and we're subtracting something that currently is not there. So let's look and see what that looks like. So I'm going to use my manipulatives to model this first problem. It says star, which is the white pawn, and notice it's on the left-hand side of the equal sign. So there's my white pawn minus a 5. So this means I need to take away a 5, but I don't have a 5 there. All I have is this white pawn. So what I need to do is I need to add a zero pair. Now remember, numbers that do not have an X behind them or a star behind them can be boxed in, and those are number blocks. So they're wanting me to take away a green 5. Well, if I don't have one, what I do is I create a zero pair that contains whatever number it is they want me to take away. And I'm going to add it to the side where it appears in the equation. So I'm going to add it to the left-hand side of the equal sign. So I'm going to add it right there. Now remember, that's 0. A positive 5 and a negative 5 is 0. If I give you $5 and I take my $5 right away from you, you're left with 0. So this is in effect adding 0 to whatever this is. But now I can take away that quantity that they wanted me to take away, which was that green 5. So when I take away, it goes away and it never comes back. Now on the other side of the equal sign, they have another number that does not have an X right next to it, so that's a number block. And that one happens to be an 8. So I'm going to put an 8 over there. So from here, I can solve this a couple of different ways. Remember, in algebra, we're always trying to get the pawns on one side, or the X's, or the stars, or the negative X's, whatever you're calling them, on one side and all the numbers on the other side. When we have both on one side, it makes it more difficult to solve. So ideally, we don't want to have this 5 block here. So to solve it, we're just going to slide it down. Remember, that isn't taking away, because when I do my check, I move it back up. So we're just going to slide it down right here. But the rules in algebra, in math, tell me that if I slide a red block down on the left-hand side, I have to slide a red block down on the right-hand side. And I don't have one over there. But remember, I just learned that I can add 0 pairs to a side where I want to either slide something down or take it away. So in this case, I want to slide something down that I don't have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create another 0 pair based on what I want to slide down. I slid this 5 down on this side. So now, to keep things equivalent, I have to do the same thing on the other side. And this is 0. When I take my 8 and I add 0 to it, I still have 8. So let me show you another way. If I take my 8 and I subtract 5, I'm going to get 3. And then if I add my 5 back in, I'm going to get 8. If I take my 8 and I add a positive 5 to it, I get 13. And then if I take away a negative 5, I get 8. So by adding this quantity right here, which is equivalent to 0, I haven't changed how much I have here. However, now I have a red 5 that I can pull down. Boom. And now I'm just left with pawns on one side and numbers on the other. So this tells me that my white pawn, which is represented by this symbol, is equal to whatever 8 plus 5 is. And 8 plus 5 is 13. To solve, or to check, excuse me, I always want to check, I move everything back up, and then I substitute my value in. I have the white pawn is equal to 13, so 13, and this is a negative 5. So that means 13 take away 5. So 13 take away 5 is 8. Excuse me. When I look on my other side, I've got 13, and take away 5, that's going to give me 8. So my quantity here, my check here is 8 equals 8. Now I also could just take this off because this is equal to 0, and I could see then that I only have 8 left here. And I have 13, and I'm taking away 5, so that's going to give me 8, and this quantity right here is 8 as well. So that's problem 1. Problem 2. This time I'm going to start with 2 blue pawns. Remember, when I have a number that is next to an X, that means 2 X's or 2 blue pawns. So I'm going to put 2 blue pawns on the left. Then they want me to take away a 6 block. There is no 6 block here. There's just blue pawns right here. So what do I need to do? I need to create a 0 pair, because that's what I'm going to be doing, to put on the side where I need to take something away that I don't have there. So I'm going to get a positive 6 and a negative 6, and I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to put them on the left-hand side of my equals sign. And on the right-hand side, you can see I have a red 4 block. How do I know it's red? Because it has a negative sign right in front of it. It doesn't have an X or a star behind it, so I know it's just a block. Now when I look back at my problem, it says 2 blue pawns or 2 X's take away the 6 block. So when I take things away, they come off the mat and they never come back. It's not the same as sliding things down. Take away means get rid of it. So I'm getting rid of that 6 block, that positive 6 block. So now what I'm left with is pawns and numbers on the left and numbers on the right. So I would really like to just have these pawns all by themselves and not have this pesky 6 here. So I'm going to slide my 6 on down, and if I slide a red 6 on this side, I have to slide a red 6 on the other side. The most common mistake kids are going to make is they're just going to add the red 6 block all by itself. That's an illegal move. You cannot do that, because a negative 6 is not the same as 0. This is 0. So I have to add 0 pairs of blocks when I need to slide a block down that's the same color as this one. So now I have pawns on one side and I have numbers on the other side. So now I have to figure my math right here. I've got a positive 6 and I have a negative 4. So there's a couple of ways to do this again. You can just ask yourself, I'll go ahead and, what is 6 minus 4? Well, that would be 2. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to trade this block in for a 4 and a 2, because 4 plus 2 is the same as 6. So I could put this right here if I wanted to, and then I could see that this is a 0 pair, and I could take that off and it would leave me with my 2 there. I'm not sure which way is easiest for you. That's a lot of switching of things around, but I'm just not certain where you are yet in your understanding of positive and negative numbers. So that's why I'm trying to show you a couple different ways to do this. So the first thing I did, let me go back. I had my -4 over here. I added a 0 pair of 6s because I slid this 6 down, and that left me with a +6 and a -4. And +6 and -4 has a sum of 2 when I add those together. The way I know I'm adding these together is because first of all, there isn't a sign over here, and secondly, I just added it. I just put it on that side of the equation. I added this 0. So when I pull this 6 down, that's like adding the 6 that is left to the 4. So this quantity is equal to 2. And then I ask myself, 2 times what number gives me 2? Well, that's 1. So each of these pawns must be equal to 1. So now to do my check, I'm going to move things back up. Well, I've got a 0 pair right here, so that's nothing. I can slide that off. I've got 4 on this side. Let's see if I have, or excuse me, -4 on this side. Let's see what I have on this side. I've got a -6 and a +1. That would take me to -5, and another +1 gets me to -4. So this quantity is -4, and this quantity is -4. Those two are equal. That means my x value is correct. So I write for my check -4 equals -4. Next problem. Here is a number block. Remember, they're just putting these parentheses around here so that you know that this negative sign is indicating that this is a negative number. So I like to box in my numbers so that I know that anything that isn't boxed in is a pawn. And in this case, they're going to be white pawns. So I'm going to take 4 white pawns and put them on my mat because that's what it tells me to do. And then it says take away a red 4, a -4. Well, I don't have any number blocks here to take away. So I have to make a 0 pair. A pair of zeros. I have to, when I'm doing this, I have to put these on as a pair. I can't just add my -4 and then take it away. I have to add these as a pair. So there's my 0 that I'm adding to my 4 white pawns, and now I have a -4 that I can take away. So when I take away means take it off, never goes back on. And they say that that is equal to a -8. So that's a red 8. Again, pawns on one side, numbers on the other is my goal. But I've got pawns and blocks on the left. So I'm going to slide this number block down. And if I slide a green 4 on the left down, I have to slide a green 4 on the right down. I don't have a green 4. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do what the new work is all about. I'm going to make a zero pair out of whatever the number is that I need to slide down. And I'm going to add it to the side that doesn't have it. But now it does. So now I can slide down my green 4. So I've slid those down. Now I'm left with pawns on one side, numbers on the other, which is exactly what I want in algebra. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 white pawns, and on the other side I have 8 plus 4, but this is -8 plus -4. And remember, when you're adding two negatives, it's just like adding positives. You take the 8 plus the 4, and then you take the sign of both numbers. So the sign of both numbers is negative, so this is a -12. So now I have to ask myself, what times 4 would give me a -12? Well, I know that if I'm not sure, and if I thought of these as just 2 pawns, what plus what would give me -12? Well, it would be -6 plus -6. But it's not just 1, it's 2. So my doubles for -6 are -3. -3 plus -3 is -6, plus -3 is -9, plus -3 is -12. Or 4 times -3 is -12. So this is -3. My pawn value is -3. I'm going to move these back up. I can see right here I have a 0. So I could just slide that off to make it simpler. So on this side I have a -8. Let's see what I have on this side. -3, -6, -9, -12, and now I need to add 4. -12 and 4 is -8. So my check for this one is -8 equals -8. If these two sides do not come out equal, then I've done something wrong in my manipulation and my moving of my pawns. Okay, last one. This one is, first I'll box in my numbers. 3 blue pawns. I know that because this is 3, the number 3 in front of an X, so that means those are blue pawns. And then it says to take away a -10 from these 3 blue ones. I don't have a -10, but I could make a 0 pair out of 10s. And I'm going to add those right there, and it says to take away that -10, the red block. So boom, it comes off. On the other side, I need to have 13. So I'm going to represent that with a 10 and a 3. Well, this is great. I've got green blocks on both sides. That's nice. But I've got pawns on this side and a block, and only blocks on this side. So I want to slide this block down so I only have pawns left. And then I'm going to slide this one down because they're the same number and they're the same color. So I only have 3 blue pawns on the left, and the number that I have on the right is 3. So I ask myself, 3 times what number gives me 3? And I know that that is 1. So my X value, or my blue pawn value, is 1. And when I bring these back up, I can see that 10 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 13. And is that the same as what I have on the other side? Yes, it is. So 13 is equal to 13.